Hey, all right. Sometimes I don't know, is the music playing or not? And I
I'm
just
not
gotta
sure
get
if you
into
can
it.
hear it, but yes, we start off with sunshines and coconut,
Um,
right? And we are so thankful that you are all here today. Welcome to the Healing Me Before We. This podcast addresses owning our own emotional drama and identifying what it brings to our relationships. We believe, Dan and I believe, that healing starts within ourselves first. So we bring to you a unique way of uncovering limiting beliefs about relationships by examining common cliches. This week, or this episode, we are going to move a little away from the cliche, but we have a real interesting subject. My name is Sharon Reed, the Heart Lady Relationship Specialist, and this is your co-host, Dan, the Radical Healing Man. What's up, Dan?
Aloha, Sharon. Aloha, heart surfers. When it comes to introducing ourselves, I think it's important that we come up with our own names. I'm sure DJs and other people who are radio personalities. Did you ever hear, you have a face for radio?
No, not really. A
You
voice.
never heard that?
No.
Well, it's not always a compliment.
Oh,
It means
oh,
that you may not be, the stereotypic attractive person for being on television.
okay,
And now, so the question is, do you have a face for podcasts, right? Because
okay,
podcasts can be video, they can be
right.
audio, they can be both,
Yes.
and you and I are choosing to make them be both. And so, in order to be at our best for these podcasts, it's important that we get sleep. And so, I want to ask you, Sharon, are you sleeping with your husband, Donovan?
Excuse me. Dad, I think that's a bit personal. So, hard servers, we are talking about sleep divorce. Hmm. Bum, ba bum. What is sleep divorce?
Well, I'll tell you, I was confused. You sent me the topic not that long ago. And when I first heard the phrase, I was confused by it. What is sleep divorce? Because, when I think of divorce, like most people, I think of it's the ending of a marriage. And and so confused by the whole sleep divorce. Is it like you're considering divorce while you're sleeping and in your dreams and then you speak it out loud? Do you ever talk out loud in bed, Sharon, when you're asleep in
I
your
don't
dreams?
know because I'm sleeping.
Well, has Donovan said anything to you about it?
I don't know because he's sleeping too.
Oh, okay. So you two are both sleeping well and peacefully.
Yes, we are.
In your own bed, same bed. You're sleeping in the same bed together?
We believe in sleeping in the same bed. Yes.
Okay. And so this whole notion of sleeping together in the same bed is something that seems very normal to both you and me because that's how I envisioned it when I was getting married to Maggie, that we would sleep in the same bed together. And we have for over 35 years. Maggie and I have slept in the same bed. And now we're finding out that not all married couples are sleeping in the same bed together. They're choosing, there's that word again that we love to use, to sleep in separate beds in the same room,
Yeah.
or if they have the luxury and the availability, they're sleeping in completely different bedrooms.
Different beds. And hence what sleep divorce really is that there are some couples who have decided that we are just going to sleep in separate beds in or separate rooms because we're not getting enough sleep or quality sleep. And there are varied reasons for, not sleeping in the same bed. So, you have snoring, and you have people who don't like to be touched, and then I think one that makes a lot of sense is when they have different sleep hours. or not sleep
Mhm.
out, different times when they go to bed. There may be one that works the night shift, one that works the day shift, or one that is a night owl, likes to read or do whatever they do at night, and then the other person likes to go to bed early. So those could be some, reasons. And then of course there are, of course, medical reasons, and I'm sure that couples who sleep in separate beds or bedrooms, they have their own other reasons too. But I thought it was interesting. But sleep is just sleep for me. How I tell my clients is it's medication. Sleep
Mhm.
is what gives the healing, and our brains need to rest just like the other things have to rest. Uh, it's when the healing happens at night, when our digestive system, our hormone system, our circulation, all of our body systems are now either working or need to be at rest. And so it's important. There's about 48% of Americans uh, have reported that they don't get enough sleep. That's almost half the population. And I'm sure a lot of you viewers out there can be saying, yep, don't get enough sleep. And guess what? 53% say that they get less than 6 hours sleep.
Mm.
So it's on the fence whether eight hours is the magic number. For some it is, 7 hours is for some it is. And then, there are also reports that seniors, they can deal with 4 to 5 hours of sleep, but they nap. So that's also a difference too. And
Well, you know what? To me, it's important to, when we talk about hours of sleep, are they quality hours of sleep, right? Are they continuous hours of sleep? Because
right,
that's really important as much as anything else. You say you go to bed, say at 11 p.m., and then you get up at 7 a.m. How how much of that time was quality sleep?
that's right. Was it
And for
interrupted?
some people,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's not an issue, right? Some people like me, I pretty much sleep like a rock. And so getting back to what you were saying, Maggie and I, we're so different. She
Mm.
is the night owl. I don't know what she does after 11 p.m. because I've already been sleeping for several hours. And in fact, I usually start out my sleep on the couch downstairs a couple hours, get a couple hours in there,
Yeah.
and then I find enough energy to get myself up and go into the bedroom and go to sleep. And so I'm already in bed quite a bit before Maggie gets into bed. I really don't even know when she gets into bed. And so for us, for the most part, it's not that big of a deal. Now, I will say though, a couple of things have changed, and that is I call Maggie now Mrs. Freeze because she likes the room cooler and she puts in a fan and she also needs white noise and so I think what we're talking about again is how people change, right? Because when we first married, I don't remember that fan. I don't remember the need for the white noise and all of that.
Well, Dan, I think it's not so much his change, personality wise, is really change. With the hormones get to
I knew you were going to say,
and the brain,
yeah, the
the
change of
hormone
life.
tells us, hey, this no longer works. And then I think as you mature, you have different needs. And yeah, I hear it quite often from the women that I coach, that they have to put the fan on or have the noise. Restless. If they don't, they're restless. I have a daughter who has to have uh, the fan on and then has to have comforters. And I'm like, hmm? Comforters and the fan on? Yes, have to have both. And I'm like,
Okay.
just no covers. Nope, got to have both. It may be just like you said, the noise, the white noise that helps calm them down and hear that. So I guess, they may have a lot of things that they're thinking about. So the noise
Mhm.
helps to decrease the thought patterns or the ruminations that they may have. And then also statistically wise, 54% of women report that they don't get enough sleep. as opposed to 42% of men who say they don't get enough sleep. But when you were talking about what do they do what does your wife do while you're asleep? It's also been reported that 66% of adults use their smartphone before they go to bed, which is a no-no. And about the same amount will watch videos before they get. Now, 60% around, they say watch videos. And I know that sometimes I could be guilty of that. If I can't go to sleep, I will watch a educational video that the voice is a little monotone. And I was like, okay, I heard enough. And then I'll go to sleep. And then 33% read. I think that number would have been a lot higher many years ago before the smartphone and all these video interruptions. And then also 33% have reported that they listen to audiobooks before they go to sleep. So it's really interesting how times have changed. When I was reading reading the articles in reference to sleep divorce, they did bring up the old show. I was getting ready to say the black and white shows like Lucy, I Love Lucy, which is one of my favorite. Yes, you heard it here. I loved Lucy. That was my show.
I got you.
I was watching it when it was in black and white. Yes, don't age me. I watched the reruns. No, really, I remember even when I Love Lucy and her other shows went into color. But that was my favorite, but it always perplexed me. I was like, why are they sleeping in two separate beds? And then when she got pregnant, I was like, how did she get pregnant and they sleep in two? I was just too fast for my time.
Well, I think that's true as far as like, the impression at that time on television,
Yeah.
it wasn't about people having sex.
Yeah.
And so I remember watching I Love Lucy as well, and I loved that show. And I also remember I was told that babies came from storks. They were delivered, right, to your home.
Okay.
And so there wasn't that kind of connection with sex as far as sleeping in the same bed and having sex and making babies.
Yeah.
And so it kind of confuses me again as far as like when we say sleep together and how we confuse that with sex. Because Jerry Seinfeld on his show did a whole stand-up comedy routine about how sleeping together and sex are two very different things. They're not the same thing.
Sure.
And that brings up the topic of, well, if you don't sleep in the same bed together, then how's that going to affect your love life, your sex life, right?
Yeah.
And for some people, they say it makes it actually better because going back to the essentiality of sleep and how important that is for our health and well-being, and that includes our sex life.
Yeah.
If we're more awake and vibrant, then we're going to be more interested in sex and desire our partner. Whereas if we're just kind of sleepwalking through the day because we don't get enough sleep at night, then maybe our sex drive isn't going to be as high. And so we're not going to have the same kind of sex that we would if we do sleep in separate bedrooms. So I can hear both sides of the, if you want to call it, argument about whether you should sleep together in the same bed or sleep in separate bedrooms. Or here's the deal though, I don't know how many homes have the availability of two people sleeping in separate bedrooms. I know that I didn't grow up in a house where there were extra bedrooms for the mother and the father, because when I grew up, I have sisters in one bedroom, brothers in one bedroom, and parents in one bedroom.
Yeah, yeah.
And even in the house that Maggie and I have built, there was that separation. My son had his bedroom, my daughter had her bedroom, and Maggie and I. And so I think comes into play the whole, is it feasible, right? Can you put two beds in the same bedroom? And will that address the issues? Because that wouldn't address the issue of Mrs. Freeze as far as, her need for that coolness of the bedroom.
Well, thank goodness there is technology that is addressing that. So they are having mattresses that give you cooler temperatures and so forth. I think
that is true.
That they're a bit pricey, but hey, for quality.
We're not going to plug them though because they're not sponsoring us. So we'll just say
well,
there are options available.
I didn't say the name. I just said there are beds. They may be a bit pricey, but it may be a great investment for quality of sleep for
Mhm.
sure. So yeah, there are different types of brands for those that give you the temperatures and for those that snore can raise the head and whatnot. I think or keep you warm if you want, and I think those are some really great support for quality sleep. So I would like to also share with our viewers a clip from a news show that talks about sleep. So here we go. Let me go ahead and share my screen and let's hear what you think about this. And action.
Sleep patterns. And so once we connected the dots that we slept so much better separately, we really embraced it.
What do you say to people who say that sleeping in separate bedrooms could hurt your sex life and your intimacy?
She would wake up resentful from not having a good night of sleep because I was maybe snoring and I didn't have a good night of sleep. So that's not great for intimacy and sex life either. If people say money is the key to happiness, I would say that sleep is the key to happiness.
One secret to a healthy marriage that doesn't involve fights about who's hogging the blankets.
And the couple says it's not only helped their marriage, but also their careers, leaving them more rested and alert at work. And they said the way they explained it to their two kids is that just like their two daughters don't like sharing a bed, one kicks the other, they also like and need their own space, guys.
Okay.
Thanks, Liz.
Liz, thank you. Sets us up nicely for Dr. Carol Ash, a sleep expert with RWJ Barnabas Health. Dr. Ash, good morning. Point and counterpoint over here because we got Carson, who is pro-sleep divorce, but let's just get out. You're the sleep expert. Are you pro-sleep divorce?
No, I want people to sleep together.
You do? Okay,
Yes.
why?
Well, because why I want people to sleep together is when you sleep with a bed partner, what happens is you have synchronization and stabilization of the pattern of sleep brain waves. And what that does is improves the quality of your sleep. And that synchronization, we believe, is responsible for a healthy relationship.
But that's if you're sleeping, right? Because
Well,
I think the argument is people aren't sleeping.
They aren't, but yet that's what you have to ask yourself, why? If it's snoring,
Yeah,
then
if
there's
it's loud.
medical intervention for that. We can solve that. If it's really relationship conflict, you want to solve that too. So not only the brain waves are synchronized, but bonding hormones are released. Yes, bonding hormones.
Okay.
And when you sleep together with someone, you have improved mental health and you're better able to respond to challenges. You have decreased stress response and an increase in your resiliency. So sleeping together is a solution for a healthy relationship.
Why?
Respectfully, I don't understand any of that you just said. I've never been happier.
But why do you guys sleep in separate rooms?
Well, we got sleep divorced in about 2018. We're more sleep separated now, but really my snoring. And then we went and I got a CPAP, and then the CPAP broke, and then I slept in the guest bedroom because it broke. But the truth is, most couples don't like to say it out loud, but they both sleep better. We have 4 children under the age of 13. We're both better off because we're getting good quality sleep at this cost. But we're secure enough in our relationship to know that it's not a sign of something larger. We just sleep better. Well, especially when the Islanders are on late at night and I want to stay up late. I don't want to put the TV on. So now when I was in my guest bedroom the other night, I was thinking, this is all I need. It was like my first apartment, and I've never been happier. And I think I'm a better husband for it.
But sometimes you guys do sleep together. Like
We do, yes.
It's not every night.
Well, yeah. I try that, yeah.
Let's go back to the good doctor.
Okay, we're getting,
So it's okay if there's misaligned schedules, if there's kids. There are really legitimate reasons why sleeping in separate bedrooms could be okay, but it's
really going back to the why, solving the
So,
story and
I really
together, it is healthier
let
for
me
the
see if I can
relationship.
stop that background for me real quick. Hopefully, there we go. I'm back. So, what did you think, Dan?
Well, I heard both sides, and I can see reason for both sides as far as sleeping together, as the doctor said about the synchronization of the sleep brain waves. I think I have more synchronization with Angus, who's also in our bed. He's our English bulldog, and he comes to bed with me. And so that's a whole separate podcast session, isn't it? Should we have our pets sleeping with us in bed?
Yes.
And
Pets and children.
and by the way, Maggie introduced the pets into the bed, and I'm going to use this word now, adaptation.
Okay.
Right? It's an important thing, and adaptation in all things, including how we even sleep in a bed together, regardless of whatever the issues may or may not be. So I'll take snoring as an example, all right? And I know that I snore when I sleep in one position over another position. And so Maggie brings that to my attention and she says, well, if you sleep on your back, you snore. She says, and if you sleep on your side, you don't snore.
Right.
And I said, okay. And I said, now let me tell you something. You snore too. And you know, so both men and women snore. Now, if snoring is such an issue that it becomes a major conflict in terms of interrupting one's sleep, then maybe it is a good idea, you know, whether you got to check it out medically with the sleep apnea and then the machines that are like Darth Vader. I know they've proved since. And so these are things that you have discussions about. I've found ways that I can still sleep in the same bed with Mrs. Freeze. I go to bed now with a hoodie on and I put it over my head and I do well. And then for her snoring, she has so many pillows, right? For her different body needs. I only need one pillow for my head. So I'll take one of her pillows and put it up as a wall, one to block the cooling fan from coming towards me, and then the other to block her snoring sound.
So
right?
so you have made a combination of sleep separation. Instead of getting two beds,
Yes.
you divided the bed. Stay on your side and I'll stay on mine.
That's right. The only ones that violate that are the dogs.
Okay.
They are the ones that
Do they come in between you?
they take other people's spaces in the bed.
All right. So they will also help maintain the separation.
At the same time, though, they provide warmth. So you know you got to take both sides of it as far as I think it comes down to is like what's the most important thing for the married couple? Is it that they stay in the bed together because they feel safe and secure in that being in the same bed? Some people that would be yes. Right. And so they'd be willing to put up with, tolerate, or find ways to adapt to stay in the same bed. Whereas for other people, they've made a decision.
They may adapt to sleeping separately.
That's right. They're going to sleep in separate beds or even separate bedrooms. And I say, if it works for you, then do, like you said before, do what works best for the married couple. Now let's go back to our whole thing. What works best for me first, right? Because if I'm grouchy or resentful, then that's going to impede my relationship not only with my wife, but my other family members and the world in general.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's important how you arrive at the decision to sleep apart. So the conversation has to ensue, and then you make that decision together and adapt together. All right. And then there are some pros and cons as we talked about sleeping together or not. I think the doctor brought up a good question of why did you make this decision to sleep apart if it's not medical or a physical issue? Making sure that are you choosing not to sleep together because of conflict? You want to avoid the conversation at night, or you want to avoid arguing that last minute, well, you did this, or that vexation that people get and snatch the cover on one side. So it's like, are you choosing to sleep separately, or are you bouncing on the couch for a particular reason, right? And then also,
now I've done that a few nights as well, and you're right. That's for a different reason.
That's
because we're upset with each other,
that's
and we
right.
don't want to be in each other's immediate presence, right? And we did a podcast on this one. Don't go to bed angry.
Right. That was one of our earlier ones.
In terms of addressing things that are important to talk about, whether it's right at the time of bedtime or not. it's important that we address these issues. That's what she was saying, is
Yeah.
not to use these separate bedroom accommodations
excuse.
as an avoidance of the issues
That's
that
right.
really need
That's
to be talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you're noticing that just coming up, you do kind of want to question if it's not something that you came, you know, decided together, because you know there could be infidelity issues, there could be low libido concerns, and so it's important that you address that if you decide to sleep separate, as the trend is called, engage in sleep divorce. So you know, please excuse me. But you know, if someone kicks, one of the solutions are, believe it or not, downsizing your bed. And they also say that for couples, they should sleep in at least a queen size bed. Interesting, no king size beds. I thought that was interesting. And as we talked about before, for snoring, there are so many different devices to help reduce snoring. So that's definitely something that people can look at. And if you do decide to sleep separate, it's important that we remember that there should be cuddle time. So some couples may decide to cuddle before they decide to go back in their separate quarters, right? Or put that dividing line, that pillow or that dog in between them. You know, you have some cuddling time before and after. And you know, I think that you really have to be considerate of each other. You know, so being considerate, having those conversations again, and also not being shy to say what you need, especially you know, for people who do have the loud snoring or the kicking or the tossing and the turning or the late at night hours, having to keep the light on to read, or that blue light interference with the screen, you know, on the smartphones or tablets or what have you. Consideration is so important, because that is one of the questions that I ask my clients: how do you sleep? Because how you sleep does impact your mood, it impacts your energy, how you go on throughout the day, it impacts how you eat, it impacts your conversations. And so if you choose to sleep divorce, that's completely up to you. We thought it was an interesting subject to talk to you all about. We hope you find it interesting. Give us some comments on what you think about sleep divorce. I just heard, it just popped up, I think, on my email, and I was like, hey, Dan, this is interesting. And, you know, check out our last episode. We talked about gray divorce, right?
That's right.
Now there's sleep divorce. I don't know if I like this thing with divorce, because divorce sounds so permanent. It does mean separate, but divorce means so permanent, and so I don't like that terminology, but I don't know who brought it up. But check it out. There are a lot of articles about it. So if you feel that that might be a solution to having quality sleep, then I encourage you all to read about it, get educated, and most of all, come up with a neutral way how this is going to support both of you and your health. So check us out, Sharon at The Heart Lady, and check out Dan the Radical Man.
danmikins.com. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in with us today, whether you're listening to us, watching us, or both, whether we have faces for podcasts or not.
There we go, faces or voices for podcasts and viewing. So we would look out for our next episode. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.